everybody. Oh, did that? So, this is my first video. I'm so excited to start reading my favorite book ever to you wonderful students. You might be wondering, what is my favorite book ever? Well, it's called Tuck Everlasting. There's two different covers. I know it's backwards. There's two different covers. There's actually more than that because they made a Disney movie of Tuck Everlasting, and it's so good. We'll watch it after we finish reading it. It's fantastic. Don't watch it before we finish reading this book, though. Before I finish reading it to you. This is my favorite book. It's called Tuck Everlasting. It's by Natalie Babbitt. I read it for the first time when I was in 4th grade, and it has just really meant a lot to me. I think it's such an amazing combination of genres. It's fiction, historical fiction, science fiction. There's a little bit of romance, but don't worry, it's just so totally adorable. And here's the question. If you had a choice to live forever and never age, to stay the same age forever, would you want to stay the same age forever? This is the main overarching question that this book asks us. Okay, again, this is Tuck Everlasting. I'm going to be reading it in, probably about 10 or 12-minute segments because we're going to be using this as a reading rotation. So I'll also be asking some questions that I want you to write down an answer to bring to me so that we can continue our discussion for this book study. Okay, Tuck Everlasting by Natalie Babbitt. This book was written in 1975, and I believe it is an award winner, and I'll tell you exactly what award next time. Tuck Everlasting. Prologue. Prologue means before the story happens. So this is kind of explaining to you, setting up the scene for the book. Starts on page 3 of this copy. Prologue. The first week of August hangs at the very top of summer, the top of the livelong year, like the highest seat of a Ferris wheel when it pauses in its turning. The weeks that come before are only a climb from the balmy spring, and those that follow a drop to the chill of autumn. But the first week of August is motionless and hot. It is curiously silent, too, with blank white dawns and glaring noons, and sunsets smeared with too much color. Often at night there is lightning, but it quivers all alone. There is no thunder, no relieving rain. These are strange and breathless days, the dog days, when people are led to do things they are sure to be sorry for after. One day, at that time, not so very long ago, 3 things happened, and at first there appeared to be no connection between them. At dawn, May Tuck set out on her horse for the wood at the edge of the village of Tree Gap. She was going there, as she did once every 10 years, to meet her 2 sons, Miles and Jesse. At noontime, Winnie Foster, whose family owned the Tree Gap Wood, lost her patience at last and decided to think about running away. And at sunset, a stranger appeared at the Foster's gate. He was looking for someone, but he didn't say who. No connection, you would agree, but things can come together in strange ways. The wood was at the center, the hub of the wheel. All wheels must have a hub. A Ferris wheel has one, as the sun is the hub of the wheeling calendar. Fixed points they are, and best left undisturbed, for without them, nothing holds together. But sometimes people find this out too late. Chapter 1. The road that led to Tree... If you ever mess up, just go back and reread it, okay? The road that led to Tree Gap had been trod out long before by a herd of cows who were, to say the least, relaxed. It wandered along in curves and easy angles, swayed off and up in a pleasant tangent to the top of a small hill, ambled down again between fringes of bee-hung clover, and then cut sidewise across a meadow. Here its edges blurred. It widened and seemed to pause, suggesting tranquil bovine picnics, slow chewing and thoughtful contemplation of the infinite. And then it went on again and came at last to the wood. But on reaching the shadows of the first trees, it veered sharply, swung out in a wide arc as if for the first time it had a reason to think where it was going, and passed around. On the other side of the wood, the sense of easiness dissolved. The road no longer belonged to the cows. It became instead, and rather abruptly, the property of people. And all at once the sun was uncomfortably hot, the dust oppressive, and the meager grass along its edges somewhat ragged and forlorn. On the left side stood the first house, a square and solid cottage with touch-me-not appearance, surrounded by grass cut painfully to the quick, and enclosed by a capable iron fence some 4 feet high, which clearly said, "Move on, we don't want you here." So the road went humbly by and made its way, past cottages more and more frequent, but less and less forbidding, into the village. But the village doesn't matter, except for the jailhouse and the gallows. The first house only is important, the road and the wood. There was something strange about the wood. If the look of the first house suggested that you better pass it by, so did the look of the wood, but for quite a different reason. The house was so proud of itself that you wanted to make a lot of noise as you passed, and maybe even throw a rock or two. But the wood had a sleeping, other-world appearance that made you want to speak in whispers. This, at least, is what the cows must have thought. Let it keep its peace. We won't disturb it. Whether the people felt that way about the wood or not is difficult to say. There were some, perhaps, who did. But for the most part, the people followed the road around the wood because that was the way it led. There was no road through the wood. And anyway, for the people, there was another reason to leave the wood to itself. Making a movie.